Welcome to the Bigger Pockets Money Podcast, show number 194, Finance Friday episode, where we talk to Deb about staying the course and implementing incremental changes now to create huge results down the road. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Mindy Jensen, and with me as always is my way taller than me co-host, Scott Trench.
You know, Mindy, these intro adjectives are sometimes a little bit of a stretch.
Scott and I are here to make financial independence less scary, less just for somebody else, to introduce you to every money story because we truly believe financial freedom is attainable for everyone, no matter when or where you're starting.
That's right. Whether you want to retire early and travel the world, go on to make big-time investments in assets like real estate, start your own business, or simply continue the aggregation of marginal gains in your financial position, we'll help you reach your financial goals and get money out of the way so that you can launch yourself towards your dreams.
Ooh, you kind of missed a pun there, Scott. You could have said, wow, Mindy, sometimes I look down on these intros.
Oh, that would have been a really good
Scott,
one.
I look up to you, literally.
Oh, these are fantastic. I have no witty responses today. My brain fog. Yeah. Oh.
Wow, a brain fog. Scott, you're usually so
That's
on
not
top
good
of
for
it.
Deb, huh?
No, you were fabulous with Deb today. I'm super excited to talk to Deb because she is in a position that I think a lot of people are. They have discovered financial independence. They have made the changes, but they are not financially independent yet. And when you first discover financial independence, what a lot of people do is like, ooh, I have to do it all. I'm going to cut everything out. And then, you add back and then you're like, okay, now what? Well, it's now you're in the part where it's like, why is nothing happening? Why am I not a millionaire? Why am I not retired already? Well, because you're in the beginning of your journey. So I'm so excited to talk to Deb today because she is where a lot of people are, and stay the course is the best advice that we can give. And it's not sexy and exciting, but it is what you need to do to continue on your journey, is just continue on.
Absolutely. Should we bring her in?
We should. Before we do, Scott, we should talk about what our attorney makes us say. The contents of this podcast are informational in nature and are not legal or tax advice, and neither Scott nor I nor Bigger Pockets is engaged in the provision of legal, tax, or any other advice. You should seek your own advice from professional advisors, including lawyers and accountants, regarding the legal, tax, and financial implications of any financial decision you contemplate. Okay, for fun, let's talk to Deb. Deb is 44 tomorrow. Happy birthday, Deb. And the mother of 3 teens, yet somehow manages to keep her grocery budget under $500 a month. I am jealous because I have 1 teen and I think I spent $500 just on her. She is obsessed with tracking her spending, but worried that she won't have enough for early retirement. Deb, welcome to the Bigger Pockets Money Podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Let's start off with your income, expenses, and debts. What is your monthly income roughly?
It's approximately $5,500 after taxes, after insurance, all the stuff that work takes out. So what I see in the bank is about $5,500.
Okay. And is there any additional income?
No, that includes child support. I was divorced a few years ago, so I am working on bringing in extra income through little side hustles that I'm happy to talk about at some point. But at this point, it's very marginal.
Okay, great. And then how can you walk us through your spending? How much is leaving, and where are the big buckets there?
Pretty much everything is leaving because I'm giving everything a job. I'm making sure that every dollar is going somewhere. And how it had been up until the last 6 months, how it had been was everything that was extra at the end of the month would go into an emergency fund. Still working on that emergency fund, but at this point, the extra money is kind of divvied up at the beginning of the month so that I have $500 automatically going into my Roth. So then when all is said and done at the end of the year, I know that I've met my Roth requirement, or my maximum on that. Everything else, like I said, gets budgeted. So there isn't extra at the end of the month, but I'm definitely not living paycheck to paycheck because that money is being allocated for things that are, including emergency fund, including money that's going into investments. But yeah, I want to make sure more than anything that I'm actually maximizing everything that I'm spending. I want to make sure that that my decisions with what I have, which sometimes seems like very limited resources, are actually being used wisely.
What do you use to track all of this?
Right now, I use YNAB. I used to use Every Penny, or I think it's called, or Every Dollar. Sorry, I used to use the Every Dollar app. Found that YNAB was for my overambitious self. YNAB kind of gets into the nitty gritty a little bit better and tracks things a little better, and then I can set goals within it as well. So, YNAB is what I have been using. Yes.
Great. Every Dollar is from Dave Ramsey. Is that right?
Yes.
I was going to say, could you just give us a quick history of kind of like your money story up to this point? Did you follow the Dave Ramsey baby steps, for example, to get to the point you're at now? Or
I didn't. In fact, when I was married, it was kind of paycheck to paycheck, and which is kind of funny because we made about twice as much as what I'm bringing in now. But when I was married, I just kind of knew that, okay, we're within our means, but at this point in time, when, anyone that's had the joy of going through a divorce, you have to kind of come up with a nice budget to hand to the lawyer to say, hey, this is what I need to make ends meet. And I kind of just went off of that, except I really cut off the fat of it, with the money that I had coming in. So I started the budget from there. I started it from a place of, the high end. And then I started like, nope, I can make do with this. And by trimming that down, then that's how I had the extra money to start stowing away into the emergency fund and start stowing away into the other things. I have had times where I have lived paycheck to paycheck. So, I've just always learned how to be frugal to make it happen so that I can succeed. And now I realize that I can be a lot more successful than when I first got divorced. I'm like, okay, my goal is to retire by 66. And now I'm realizing, you know what, if I'm really wise, if I start, if I can do some little side hustles, if I can do some different things, then I can maybe even hit 60. So, I'm kind of trying to backtrack, my years because, I want to make use of the time that I have here on this earth. And I want to make sure that I'm really enjoying things, but also maximizing every dollar that I get.
Got it. I think that's great, and I think it's an awesome goal. Obviously we're aligned on on that being a great financial goal for early financial freedom and maximizing your time with that. It sounds like you're kind of saying every dollar has a purpose with that, and so you kind of moving it all very intentionally. How much is going to wealth building activities? You mentioned that you're maximizing the Roth each year. You've got money going towards an emergency fund. What would you kind of consider the wealth building accumulation on a monthly basis within your budget?
It's actually around 20% because I also do 10%. I work as a 403B. So I've been maximizing that. I've been maxing that out. Not maxing that out. That's a misnomer. I've been meeting my match on that. So it's 10%, or it's up to 10%. Unfortunately, it's only 25% of the 10%. So I'm getting a quarter for every buck that I put in, but it's still free money. So I've been putting in the 10% for work. And then the $500 a month that I'm putting into my Roth is about 10% as well. That roughly comes out to 10% of my income. So yeah, I'm right at 20%. If I have extra money at the end of the month, I stow it away in my emergency fund. But I have about 11.5 thousand or 11.5 thousand. Yeah, you know what I mean. I've got just over 11,000 in my emergency fund right now. Ideally, I would like it closer to 25. But I also realize that retirement is coming whether I like it or not. So I'm trying to put in early and put in as much as I can. It's just not enough. It constantly feels like that time is ticking and it feels like it's not enough. I unfortunately I monitor my numbers very often. So I'm like, okay, keep going. I want them to keep going up.
Nope. This is great. This makes a lot of sense. I think it sounds like you're a very good steward of each dollar coming in and out, and you have a plan here, and it's like there's an sense of urgency around getting ahead with this kind of stuff. So let's go through those assets next. Your assets and liabilities. You have the emergency reserve. What other property or investments do you own?
I have the house we live in. When we bought it, I think it was $260 we got it for. At this point in time, it probably is worth about $350 at this point in time. We've been here 9-10 years. And I owe $240 on that. The joy of going through a divorce, much like the conversation you had recently with the gal who had gotten a house with her boyfriend and then they had broken up. Mindy was asking, I just was listening to that yesterday, and Mindy was asking with that, when you break up with somebody, how that works. You have to refinance. There's no other way to get them off of the deed or off of the mortgage. So that's what I did. I had to refinance the house. And then from the money that was taken out, I had to pay like $20,000 to my ex. To get him off of everything. That's what our agreed upon was. So unfortunately, I don't have the equity in the house that I would otherwise, but I still have, if I were to sell it today, I'd probably still be up $90K. So, that's not chump change, but I'm not looking to sell until my kids are out of high school. We're at a really good location, and in our area, the prices have gone up so much that at this point in time, I wouldn't have any advantage to moving somewhere smaller because it's going to end up costing me just the same, if not more. And there probably was another question in there too. Okay. So assets and liabilities. So I have 2 cars. I have the vehicle that I use for work. I don't know. Obviously, cars can be just as much a liability as they are an asset, but I have a vehicle for my 19-year-old. I have a vehicle for myself. Both of them are old and paid off and running great because I just put $1,800 in mine to fix it up. But those are paid off, and I have no debt. I do travel hack my credit card, but that's paid off every month. So no debts other than the house.
Awesome. And how about investments? It sounds like you have a Roth and you have a retirement account through work. Do you have any other? Can you tell us about those and any other investments?
Okay, I'm going to cheat here on my paper. The Roth IRAs, I've got approximately, as of last night, it was about $10,500. 403B has approximately $24,000. And then the IRA is right at $85,000. So altogether, it's about $120K. Not great, but again, it's a start considering I had about $70,000 when the divorce went through. At this point, I switched over from a brokerage account on my Roth and my traditional IRAs. I switched over because I realized I was like paying like $60 a month in fees for them to oversee it. I'm like, yeah, I got a Vanguard account. I transferred it over, but I haven't figured out how to change it to VTI, VTSAX yet, because that's a goal for this weekend for me to go in. Normally I'm on my phone, and those type of transactions I don't feel comfortable doing on the phone when I don't have the full website. So I'm going to get on the computer this weekend and actually transfer those over. So that I have at least, whole market index fund that I'm looking at, as opposed to all these, small ETF, it's everywhere right now, according to how it was transferred or rolled over from the brokerage. So at this point in time, my 403B through work, like I said, I've got the 25% match up to 10%, if that makes sense. So 25 cents per dollar up to the 10%. That one is one of those kind of leveraged ones where, it's like moderate risk or, it's kind of generic. I need to talk with a representative from there, but when I call the 1-800 number, you get somebody that really is kind of clueless. So about every quarter, every half, they have a representative that oversees our accounts that we can talk to. That's on my to-do list. So when the email comes through from work, I want to actually talk to people that oversee our accounts at work, because I would like to be a little more aggressive than, the moderate accounts. I think it's about 15 to 25% bond portfolio at this point, and I'd really like to just move that all pretty much to index funds if possible.
What I'm hearing here is you are incredibly disciplined. You have where every dollar's going, where every dollar's coming in. It sounds to me, but I guess one of my questions is how recent or how long have you been kind of on this highly disciplined approach to personal finance? Was there was there a trigger moment where did this kind of journey begin? I guess I'm hearing intensity from you in this, and I'm wondering where that came from and how long that's been compounding for you here.
Okay. Well, for one, it's kind of my nature to begin with. So, unfortunately, I've kind of always had it. But, unfortunately, as you guys, or maybe fortunately, as you may know, when you're in a relationship, you are dependent upon what they spend as well as what you spend. It doesn't matter who oversees the finances. You both are spending money. So I've kind of always had to have that intensity, because of what was going out when, the 20 years I was in a marriage. But, when you are in a position where you are the only one providing, the, 95% of the care for your children, and you're having to make sure that you are the best steward of your money to make sure that, the mortgage is paid. There's nobody else that's there to catch you if you fall. Thankfully, I have, family that would support me, but you know what? I'm 43. I'm independent. There's no reason I should have to have additional in addition to what I'm already getting as support from my ex. So yeah, I just always had that intensity. But when you have goals, when you can look at when you can have control over the spending, because I'm the only one that's really doing the spending, it really does give you more intensity, and it really does help me to focus and hone in and say, hey, here are my parameters for the month. And I'm one of those people that budgeting to me is not restrictive at all. It's really empowering. It really helps kind of give me guidelines as to what I have. And I'm never opposed to moving things around. If I'm not meeting, if we haven't bought clothes for a few months and that's, but we need more groceries that month, I'm not opposed to moving things around.
Deb, what I'm trying to ask is you've got a winning formula here. You're saving, you're bringing in income, you're saving, you're putting it into your Roth, you're putting it into the tax deferred plan at work, you're getting the match. You've got a plan for every dollar. You're building the emergency reserve. What I'm trying to figure out is how long has the current state been compounding here? Because you're feeling like you're behind and all that kind of stuff, but I believe that you're on track to build a substantial amount of wealth over the next 10 years, given your current state. We'll certainly go and find ways to accelerate it on this call. But I just want, what I want to get at is you're feeling like you're behind. How long has what you've been doing right now continued for? When was the divorce or that?
Okay, divorce was about 2.5 years ago, but I started with the Roth maybe 6 months ago, because I realized I had been putting all that extra money into savings. And there's nothing wrong with that, obviously, but that savings, interest is piddly and it's not getting me anywhere. And just listening to you guys, just listening to ChooseFI, a lot of different, resources that I constantly, I don't listen to music in my car. I listen to podcasts. So, I'm just constantly having this feedback. And sometimes it's really hard though, to take that information from people that are like, yeah, I make, $10,000 a month and, and then I get the $60,000 bonus at Christmas. I have a really hard time translating that, because that's not for me. So for me to like I said, approximately 6 months ago, I'm like, okay, what of this information can I take and actually use in my own life? I don't have these huge, I don't have, 5 properties under my name. Not that I would be opposed to that, but, I'm not at that place right now. So it was just kind of reallocating where things went, because like I said, that money was just going to savings, because I've always had this intensity though, Scott. I mean, as far as knowing, where I'm spending the money. I mean, I'm a Goodwill girl. I mean, I love secondhand things. I love, cutting back. It's just my nature. But the actual focus, though.
I was just going to say, like, I think I phrased it poorly with the intensity thing with that. I was just more thinking about, hey, you've been putting money into the Roth and the plan at work. It sounds like that's only been going on. It sounds like that's been a gradual process over the last couple of years, but really kind of picked up in the last 6 months with what you're currently doing, where you're allocating the accumulation of your income and your savings into a more intentional investment approach for FIRE. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I'm thinking it was probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was exposed to FIRE for the first time, heard that word, and, they were just using it very commonly. It wasn't being defined in the podcast I was listening to. It wasn't one of your podcasts, because you guys are pretty good about that. But I looked it up and was kind of pursuing that. And through that process, I had already had the 10%. The moment I started work, I started the 10% because I knew retirement's coming. Whether we like it or not, it's kind of like living in the Midwest, and I know the snow is going to fall eventually. Same with retirement, it's coming. So yeah, I'm trying to think, but the actual Roth stuff has been within the last 6 months.
Yeah, let me just give you a framework here to make it, because
Okay.
because what I'm hearing is, hey, I feel behind. I'm doing all these things. It feels like things are going right. I feel like I'm moving towards optimization of my portfolio, because you are. You're doing it right, in my opinion, at a high level. We're going to dig into the details and find ways to try to accelerate that, which is why we're here. But what I understand that this journey is a power curve, and you're still in the early stages of it. You've just reset how you're allocating your capital to the purpose of investing for retirement and building wealth. And what happens here is it starts with a few $100s a month, and then it moves up to another $100 a month when you get the next raise or promotion at work. That all drops to the bottom line. When your kids are getting older, it sounds like when they move out of the house, there's going to be lower expenses there. You're going to be able to bump that up from $500 to $1,000. Then it's going to go from $1,100, then $1,200, then $1,300, then $1,400, then $1,800. When the next thing happens with that, and that's the journey. There's no event that happens, and it's just a slog at first as you're moving up that curve and applying more and more capital month by month, year by year to this. So with your current rate, if you just sustain it and no changes happen, you're like, oh, it's going to be painfully slow. But what's going to happen to you, I'm sure, if you continue on the current track, is that you're going to realize that compounding nature over the next couple of years, and it's going to get accelerating on a compounding, 1% better every month or 2% better every month deal, which will take place there. The question today is, how do we jumpstart that and accelerate that so that you're getting a little farther ahead, and that you're compounding on a bigger number earlier. But I want to just point out that you're doing great. You just haven't had enough time so far to let that compounding happen, and just let it, it takes 6 months to a year or 2 years to fully reset the position, to jump that savings rate from 10 or 20% to 30 to 40 to 50. And I think that's a phenomenon that you're hearing about on these podcasts. People have been doing that for 6 years and have had that whole time to completely pivot their entire financial position in support of this. You just haven't had that time yet, is basically what I'm hearing from the journey. You're doing everything right, though, from a strategic perspective. And we'll get into more of the details there. But Mindy, what do you think about that? Am I on the right track with that?
Yes, I love your mindset, Deb. And I hear you saying, I'm not at this place. I saw a post several months ago that said, don't compare the beginning of your journey to the middle or end of somebody else's.
Yes,
We've got a lot of people who are on the show who have been they make $120,000 a year. They live in their parents' basement. They eat rice and beans every meal. They spend like $12,000 a year and make $120,000. So they're able to save 99% of their salary. That's not you. That's not your circumstances. Don't compare yourself to them. Your mindset is amazing. No, I have no extra money. I have given every dollar a job. Yes, because when you don't tell that dollar what to do, that dollar is going to go out and do it itself. And I think I stole that from Dave Ramsey, but it's not wrong. Yeah. So that's a fabulous mindset to have. And you have no debt outside of your mortgage. Oh, spoiler alert. I'm jumping ahead. That's amazing. There are so many people. What is it? 40% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency. Like they can't cover $1,000 emergency, and you have no debt outside your mortgage. I don't consider mortgage debt to be bad debt because your mortgage is at 3.375. Again, spoiler, I already know this, but that's a fabulous rate. My first mortgage was a 7% interest rate, and I thought that was a great deal. Yeah. So so you've got a great rate. You just said that you put $1,800 into your car. You know how much a new car costs? A whole lot more than $1,800. So I love that you put more money into your car, your existing car, instead of saying, oh, my car needs $1,800 worth of work. I'm just going to get a new one. Well, you're not going to get a new car for $1,800. You're certainly not going to get a good car for $1,800. Also, side note, you have a Honda Odyssey. I have a friend who is obsessed with the Honda Odyssey. So if your door ever gets wompy, hit me up because I can connect you with him and he has a fix for it. It's very cheap. And you can do it yourself. But aside from that, you said budgeting isn't restricting at all. It's really empowering. Yes, you win. Like you have won. You just, like Scott said, you haven't had the time yet to super win. And that's okay because you're gonna super win.
Mm-hmm. I think the issue with that is, I read too much. And sometimes by reading, you find out, okay, well, if you want to retire in this amount and you have this amount, everything shows me that I need to be closer to a 50% savings rate. For investment. And so I know that. So this 20% feels very, very minimal. And, when I look at that 20%, I'm like, man, that's pretty dang good considering all things. But yeah,
it is.
It is great. Yeah. And those articles are right. Right, so there's that math is correct. You do need to accumulate, get to a higher savings rate, and you're doing a great job right now with that. Right, that's where I'm trying to get us to zoom out and think about a 3-year picture. Right, you cannot. I mean, we might be able to do some things on this call, hopefully, to continue to. But this is an aggregation of marginal gains, right? That's the thing that's going on here. That's what you've probably been doing the last couple of months is figuring out how to aggregate those marginal gains, get tight with the budget, really move those things into the Roth. You just need another 2-3 years to compound that, and you will get to that 30. You will bump from 20% to 25 to 30%. I guarantee. I know it based on our conversation right now with this. When your kids are in college or out of the house, that's going to be another 5-10% that's going to drop to your bottom line. And so you're saving at 20% now, but think about this is a 5-10 year plan to get to FI, right? And so you don't need to be at 50% right now. You need to get there and maintain it on a consistent basis over time. And that's the strategy I think that we bring into play here with this. And you're going to be in great shape with that based on what I know about you from the last 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes here, I guess. So I'm very optimistic about that. But I think that's what I'm trying to say is they're both right. Yes, 20% is great. And if you want to fire, you do need to get up to 50%, or you have to find a way to create an asset or get better investing returns or something. Those are the levers, right? You have to earn more, spend less, invest the difference, or create an asset in order to fire or hasten fire. So, okay. Well, any reaction to that first before we get into the details here?
Yeah, I completely agree. And, those are the things that, what's funny is peace of mind that I have about my finances really helps me to sleep at night. But the things that keep me up at night is the kind of idea spurring. It's not even the stress of it. It's just, okay, what can I do? Because, constantly looking for more things. And unfortunately, I think I'm limited most by my energy and my time. I think most people would agree on that. But, when you're working full time and you're also trying to, be a good parent, and you're trying to maintain a house, and you're trying to, build these side things, to get things going. Yeah, it just feels like so many balls, but I don't know. It just makes me excited. It gets me, revved up to, what the possibilities are. And unfortunately, my window is closer to 15 years as far as looking at retirement. So it's better than the 5 to 10 you mentioned, but it's just trying to optimize everything that I'm doing. And that's precisely why I'm here. I'm also here with you guys today because I really want to be able to get ideas going for people that are more in my situation, that, hopefully it can be an encouragement to them what you have to say. So.
Absolutely. Well, let's maybe let's start with expenses here, because that is something you have the most control over. With that, I don't know. Do you think that's a good place to start, Mindy?
Yeah, I would like to see, because I think there will be some opportunity to cut some, and then you can put that into your retirement bucket and increase your savings rate without feeling too much of a pinch. So let's start with the big one. What is your mortgage payment, and what are you paying on it?
It is $1,700. Actually, it's like 15 below $1,700. I pay $1,700 every month. That includes, all my insurance. That includes my, I'm blanking on the words. All the insurance and everything. It's complete. Yes. It's escrow complete.
Yeah. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Okay.
Yes.
When was the last time you shopped around your insurance quotes? Your insurance rates?
I did last summer. And everything was comparable. Everything was within a few dollars. And I always, I always do the two together. I always do my car insurance with my homeowners to get the bundled rate. And, but I definitely can do that again. It's kind of hard for me to want to do that though, because, when I had to have my roof replaced, $18,000 roof replaced for $500 last year. When I had that done, my insurance was really, really good at working with me to get it done. And other people were having a lot of problems. So it's really hard when you have really good customer service to want to change. But I definitely can shop that around.
Okay, I have a question about that. You said an $18,000 roof for $500. Was the $500 your deductible?
Okay, the deductible I have on it's $1,000, and that's pretty common around here. Most people have $1,000 deductible on their homeowners insurance. There's some of the things that they were reimbursing us for that I paid for, or that I did myself. So I was able to actually make it so that when I actually had out-of-pocket expenses, it only was $500 because I had done a lot of the work myself on like some of the siding and stuff that needed replaced.
Okay. I would say when you go to re-quote your insurance, ask for quotes on a $2,500 deductible and a $5,000 deductible, because in many cases, those will drop your insurance rates significantly. I think we have a $10,000 deductible on our homeowner's insurance, and my insurance rate is really low. But I also have that $10,000 deductible easily available. If you don't have $2,500 available for your deductible, then don't get a $2,500 deductible, because that's when, a meteor hits your house or something, and then you need a new roof and you have to come up with the deductible. The same thing with your car insurance. I'm not sure what your car insurance deductible is, but as you raise the deductible, the monthly payment comes down. And in some cases, the monthly payment is hugely reduced. And you can just take the extra that you were paying towards the insurance and put that into an account to make up your deductible reserve. So those are two things I'd like to see.
That's precisely what an emergency fund is for as well. And I wouldn't be able to swing the 10,000, but I definitely could do 2,500 or look into 5,000 just to see what kind of differential we get between those policies.
Yeah. And again, if it's like $2 difference, go with the lower deductible. But I think it's going to be a significant reduction. So, and I hear what you're saying. You want to be loyal to the company that was so good to you. And if the rate is comparable with other companies, then absolutely stay with the guys that are, dance with the guy that brought you. But if they're significantly different, there's, what did I hear this from on Clark Howard? He's like, yeah, you should definitely requote your insurance every year because they aren't rewarding you for loyalty. So don't reward them with your loyalty. So, okay, let's move along. Groceries, I don't even need to look at. $500 a month for 4, including 3 teenagers, is amazing. Eating out.
I have $150 on that. Sometimes I end up taking money from the grocery budget for that. And we don't eat out much at all.
Okay. I think actually your food expenses are pretty dialed in.
Yeah. That one, actually, most of it, unfortunately, comes from the fact I'm a home health nurse. I'm out away from home, no access to microwave or anything all day long. And unfortunately, fast food is all too readily available. So a lot of that is, $3 here, $6 here. But that is one that, I do also, once a week or so, sometimes twice, go pick something up for the kids, especially on nights I have charting to do or anything else.
Okay, that is understandable, and I'm not going to ding you on that. Let's talk about your car expenses.
Okay. Well, the cars are paid for. I have a car for my 19-year-old who is working full-time as well as going to school full-time. Those are both paid off. My car insurance, I believe that's $500 deductible on that. It may be $1,000, but I think it's $500. Is what, like $110? It used to be $120, but with COVID, it went down to $109 a month on insurance for those 2 vehicles. And like I said, the vehicles are paid off. I pay maybe $250 a year for plates, for tags on those. Gas prices are kind of high, not because gas is so much high, but because between my daughter going to and from school and work, and then for myself, I drive for work. I do get reimbursed for that, but I don't differentiate what I pay out on gas versus what they reimburse me for in my check. So,
are you reimbursed 100% or like 55 cents a mile or whatever it is?
Yeah.
How do they reimburse you?
It's nowhere near that. They don't even reimburse us what the federal rate is, so I can't, but we aren't allowed to deduct once they reimburse us. So I can't get a deduction on my taxes on that. I've already checked into that. But it is still substantial more than what I pay per mile to drive. So I haven't looked at my pay stub recently to see what it is, but we do get reimbursed in our paycheck every 2 weeks for the miles that we drive.
Do you keep track of those miles, or do they just give you a set amount?
No, it's actually kept when we log into our patient's account, like they keep track of what time we stamped in, and they do a Google. It automatically is figured out from like patient X to patient Y, how long or what the closest mileage is. So it's all factored in based upon when we log into chart.
I don't know the answer to this one. My belief is that you should be getting reimbursed for the federal rate for every mile driven at work, or there should be some other way for you to recoup that. I don't know the answer to that, though. This is a new framework for me. So I would wonder if we could crowdsource this in the Facebook group and see if anybody has some ideas or answers to this.
Yes, I was wondering that as well, Scott, because it's the federal reimbursement rate. It's not the whatever your company decides to reimburse you. I'm going to reach out to some HR people that I know outside of this call, and I'm going to ask all of you listening to this if you know anything about HR and reimbursement on the mileage. I'm not saying that your company's doing anything wrong. I'm just saying it sounds a little weird, and I don't have any other information. So if you know about this, please comment in the Facebook group. We're going to post a note up at the top of the group, which is bigger. It's not biggerpockets.com. It's facebook.com/groups/BP money. And let's see if somebody can help us out with this, because that sounds a little weird, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And Deb, what are the stakes with this? How many miles you drive in a week?
Not tons. It's like 150. 200 miles a week.
I mean, that's $75 a week, right? That could be coming in.
I have colleagues that drive a lot more out in the country, where the houses are much more spread out in their territory. We addressed this with HR and with our higher ups last year, and we have a very big, medical organization that we're a part of. And actually, they decreased the amount that we were getting last year. And it had nothing to do with COVID. It was before COVID. So, yeah, big stinks have been made about it. And so, yeah, I would love to hear and see what other people are saying and doing.
Yeah, there's something there. Is there anything else in your expenses? You gave us a really comprehensive list of all this stuff, but do you think there's any places we should go hunting inside of your expenses for opportunity, or do you think that those other things are buttoned up there? We should move on to like investing or career or that kind of stuff, side hustles.
I honestly don't know. I really do button it down pretty quick. I think a lot of my expenditures are very minimal. Like even with clothing and stuff like that, most parents will tell you, to do 75 to 100 a month is very minimal when you've got, 4 bodies to have clothes on. But there's always opportunity for decreasing. And I think just by checking in, like you said, with the deductibles, that may be my best place to start. Unfortunately, everything else I've mostly trimmed the fat on. I've trimmed it pretty good over the years. I have a couple of
questions.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions about your expenses. So your phone, well, okay. So first of all, this is just a question. You said your daughter works full time and goes to school full time, and you're paying her gas and her insurance. What is she doing with her full-time money?
Going to the dollar store. She's very frugal as well. But that is one thing that she and I have talked about. She's not home enough for me to kind of have the in-depth conversation, but I'm really wanting her to, and I actually have the account open for her. We just need to make it happen. To look at investing about half of that. I'd really like to see about 50% of her income go into a Roth. But I've also talked to her about starting to pay half of her gas and then paying for her entire insurance. It's not much, it probably come out to probably 75 to 100 a month. But one, it would take the burden off of me, but then that would also be money that I can optimize and, put back into, my own retirement. So, and she's more than agreeable. She's like, okay, Mom, what do you want me to give you? Because she's not at a place where she's paying rent or anything like that. So it's not a big deal for her to just give me the money. And she's a good girl anyway. So, yeah,
I would, instead of having her, and don't let her listen to this show because she's going to hate me, but instead of having her reimburse you for the funds, she can just pay for that. I'm talking about gas. Oh, you need gas? Go to the gas station, pay cash for your gas, or put it on your own credit card and pay that off every month so she can get points too. And start contributing to, she's 19 years old. When I turned 16, my sister and I are really close in age, and we went from 2 drivers to 4 drivers. So my parents bought us a Chevette, which is not the dream car of anybody on the planet. And they paid for the car, and we had to pay for absolutely everything else. Gas, insurance, repairs, anything for that car. We split it 50-50. And if we didn't pay for this stuff, they would take away the car. And that taught me a lot of things, but it taught me that I have to foot the bill for my own driving pleasure, because I did want to drive. I was very excited to drive. I had to have my freedom. I just want to add in that I don't know what I don't know about the parenting situation and all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to give any parenting advice, but as a general theme, I think that over the next couple of years, it's likely that your kids will move out and, become independent adults. And that process of slowly offloading these expenses for their lives
will be the art. I think that I don't know what the right move is there as a parent, but that is, I think, going to be the huge component that will accumulate over the next several years, I think, in your financial position, allowing you to save way more money. And again, I have no idea what the right answer there is, but it sounds like you have a great philosophy on how to handle that and a great relationship with your kids to handle that. So I admire that, and I don't know the answer, but I think that in general, that will be the biggest thing that will happen in your financial saving to your savings rate over the next, I don't know, 5 years, I'd imagine.
My younger two, just to clarify, they are like right at like 12 and 13. So, I mean, unfortunately, I still have a number of years with them, but with my oldest, for sure, I definitely, like I said, can optimize her experience into adulthood as well as, and she's willing. She really is, willing. She's living at home. She's got everything provided for her. Anything she spends money on is just for kicks and giggles. Or to, feed her sugar addiction. So yeah, she's willing to do those things. And, she's been using, I had her open up her own bank account, and she's been using her debit card, and I've had her for, 2 years, been handing her, Discover card things. I'm like, just fill this out, get this sent in. So, she is on my credit card, so I believe I didn't know that she was going to be getting, good numbers off of my 800 plus credit score. But apparently, they told her at the bank when she opened it, they're like, your credit score is really good. So apparently she's been getting credit off of mine. So she's definitely in a position of power as far as that's concerned for being able to start from a good place.
Yes. And I would actually go ahead and open up a separate card with her if you haven't already, although she has the 800 credit score. One of the factors in your credit score is your length of credit history. So she should open up a credit card that she doesn't just, run up and, use it sensibly and all of that, but open up a credit card and leave it open like forever. It doesn't have to be a great card, but it could be a great card. Why get a crappy card if you don't have to? Episode 311 just came out from ChooseFI. That's the updated travel rewards episode. And Brad started off as a travel guy. He loves travel rewards. I have not listened to it yet because I don't have any big trips that I'm planning, but you have a trip that you're planning. So why pay for it if you can, use some of these miles to help pay for it or even foot it all together? And that's another bunch of money that you are going to, once that trip's over, all that money that you're saving for that trip will now be able to be invested.
Mm-hmm. Except then there will be another trip. But I mean,
well, I think we should move on from the category of your budget and your expenses altogether here, because I'm gathering a picture of a very tightly run household that is very well disciplined with the budget. You probably got some puts and takes there, but you are accumulating those marginal gains, aggregating those marginal gains month by month, it seems, through your management of household finances there. And I just wonder if we're going to be able to give you much in the way of advice besides a couple of 1 or 2% incremental gains here, which I think is awesome.
Which is huge at this point, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the next area I'd ask, again, there's 4 levers here. Earn more, spend less. We just covered spend less. Invest the difference, or create assets and side hustles. And so where do you smell the opportunity in those other 3 areas?
Okay. So as far as side hustles go, I have 2 business ideas that I have started to work on. One of them, well, as you know, with anything, you can really only focus on one big thing at a time, or so it feels. I am working on on starting up a blog business that's actually for people in similar situations as I am. But those people are living more financial, paycheck to paycheck type situations. So I'm working on that. Unfortunately, I'm at the part of it though, where, you're having to invest just to get things started up. Going through some education on blogging and all of that. So I'm at the point where I'm paying so that I can start getting it up and running. But once I get that up and running, I do have, Mindy, I talked to you about my idea for an application or to do an app regarding some memory processing, storing it's hard to explain. But so I have a couple of business ideas. That's what it all comes down to. But, I'm working on one of them because that's all my time and energy will allow. But as an additional side hustle, because I love garage sales, because I love Goodwill, things like that, I like to find things that I can resell for, 2 or 3 times as much. For example, in the Midwest here, and in Colorado, you need snow pants. Kids need snow pants. They need new sizes every year. So, before it gets cold, I go through the local Goodwills and everything else, and I find ones in mint condition, and I buy them up, and then I sell them for 2 or 3 times as much on Marketplace. And, for snow, everyone's looking for snow pants, and I can, at least optimize that. I'm not by any means somebody that's going to be buying the big things and shipping them off. I just don't have time to deal with shipping, for the bigger items, like, the flea market flipper and, people like that are able to do. But I can do it on a small scale. And that's something I'm trying to teach my kids how to do as well, just to see how easy it is. It really, if you're already at the garage sale anyway, you may as well invest a little bit of your money in looking through video games and reselling them. So so those are just things I'm doing to optimize. Go ahead.
Well, what I'm hearing is you've got ideas on how to earn extra money that is very high dollar per hour, like this reselling stuff. And you've got ideas for the creation of businesses and assets with that. And to me, that signals that says a couple things. One, it's not like you just don't have that much in the way of assets that are liquid outside of your retirement accounts to invest right now. So there's not really like a lot of opportunities to invest. There could be a house hack theoretically, but that's probably unlikely in your situation for given the fact that you have 3 kids at home and all that kind of stuff. And it sounds like your career, you kind of have like a track there that is pretty clear. It's not going to like explode your income over the next couple of years, but
no.
Yeah.
And okay. Is there any opportunity to get a new job?
There is, there always is, but with nursing, you're very much within a niche market. If I was single and I could do travel nursing or something like that, didn't have kids, that may be a different story. Again, with nursing, it's like my raise is maybe 30 cents a year. It's very, that is not an area that I'm going to get rich quick in. But the benefits are amazing. I think $390 a month for really good insurance for, pre-tax. So all of those things are covered. So even though I don't make great money, I'm also not paying out, for really high, insurance premiums and everything else. And I'm not hesitant to take my kids to the doctor or anything like that. So there is that possibility, but it's more likely in the ideal world, I would like to get to a point where I can work, 4 days a week instead of 5, so that I can have more of an opportunity to work on things that are going to optimize, have higher growth potential. I think that is more likely.
My belief, based on what you're saying here, is that your emergency reserve is the biggest thing you can be focusing on now from an investment perspective. Paradoxically, that's only going to earn 0.1% interest, but that's going to give you a heck of a lot more comfort to invest in your ideas one by one, and you're going to feel much better about a 4-day work week, for example, with 3 days now to focus, or 2 days, whatever much extra time that brings you to focus on your next business idea, which could be a higher probability way to have a shot at that. It's going to lower your run rate income, all things considered, but it will give you a chance at that big growth opportunity. And so I think that actually ups the stakes for me for rounding out that emergency reserve to a very, very comfortable number that clearly 6 months, maybe to a year number, if that's where you smell the opportunity to potentially earn more. And the second framework I'd give you is 9 out of 10 businesses fail. So to me, that means you try 10 businesses. And so how do you try 10 businesses? Well, you do maybe one every 90 days. You come up with a 90-day plan to really flesh out your blog, and you make sure you commit to it every week, the key actions to move that forward. So here's a framework for you. Let's say you want to do a blog, right? And so you need content for it. That's going to be the biggest blocker, right? Why not come up with a book outline for that blog? It's 15 chapters or 13 chapters, because there's 13 weeks in a quarter. You write each chapter for the book, you release each one to the blog, and then you've got an ebook completed by the end of it that you can just aggregate into a book with that. So that would be one way to kind of double task or condense your work into a 1 quarter timeline. You see if it works. Maybe no one reads it, and then you shut it down, wind it down. You know, the point of writing is to be read, right? The point of podcasting is to be heard. And so you have to, you would try that out, and then you would know whether it's time to quit or double down for another 90 days on that. And you can kind of, if you think about that over 2.5 years, 10 quarters, you've now attempted or scaled 10 of your ideas, and 9 of them will fail and 1 of them will succeed if you're at all close to the average there, and you learn a lot. So, but that becomes a lot more accessible to you with a fully funded emergency reserve and a 4-day work week. So to me, that's the beginnings of a strategy there where, yeah, the investment returns on that are horrible. It's not going to look good in your Excel model for financial freedom, but it could be the chance. It could afford you the chance to get lucky, or the chance to have that speed moment coming for you outside of the traditional workplace. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts or reactions to that?
Yes. Thankfully, I've already had some businesses fail.
Oh, good. Perfect. So you're closer to your 1 out of 10. Yeah.
Yes. So my numbers are very minimal. Thankfully, those were in MLM situations, and those are out of my system now. So now I can just grow things that I actually have a lot of passion in and a lot of actual buy-in in, whereas before I had to kind of find the passion and buy-in. When you're doing your regular job and you feel like, you're passionate about it. I mean, it's obvious, Scott and Mindy, that you guys are very passionate about your jobs. And, same with me. With nursing, it's definitely the career I went into because I love what I do. And believe me, there's aspects of it that I cannot stand. But, when there's passion there, and the same with business stuff is, when I'm doing my passion job during the day, I'm constantly thinking about what I'm going to be writing that night, or what, technical aspect I'm going to work on my website, or those type of things. And you know what, when you have that kind of excitement, it's kind of excitement I never had before with anything else I've tried. You know what, it's going to take a lot to keep me from reaching my goal. It's kind of like, wanting to retire early. Yes, if I have to go to 65, I'm going to go to 65. I'm going to do what I have to do. I don't want to stop until I'm there. But the same with the business ideas. I am not stopping until I reach my goals. And you know what? If I have to tweak it, 20 times, I'm going to. Ruth Suka, who, has Blog Empire, she is always saying, I'm going to throw spaghetti at the wall until something sticks. And I'm going to, it's just my nature. And that nature has become more inherent over the last few years because, it has to be. I have to be stubborn. I have to, even if it means I'm getting 5-6 hours of sleep at night, which most nights that's what I'm getting. I'm going to do what it takes to, take care of my kids and to, pursue my passions.
Absolutely. And I love that. I admire the passion, all that. I just want to say that the financial component that impacts this is, I think, your emergency reserve. I think it's too small right now at about 2 to 3 months of reserve. And, we've identified in order to achieve financial freedom, you need to get in 15 years or 13, whatever it is, there's a 50% of your income and invest it, and on average, you're going to get there in 15 years. Is that kind of what you're coming back to with the savings rate? Yeah. So, okay, great. We can get there by just aggregation of marginal gains. I use that term too many times this episode, but the way you're doing, and you should continue doing that. But I think that you've got a fair shot potentially at at if you round out the emergency reserve and use that and feel the power of that, whatever that number is for you, whether it's 6 months or 12 months, to move to 4 days a week, or to try to invest or automate a few parts of your business at a certain times, maybe you've got a better shot at increasing that cash flow sooner and faster with one of your many ideas that you're clearly passionate about and working on. And so that's where I would just encourage that's the return of the emergency reserve that you can't put into your model again and all that. And so if you're looking for a capital allocation thing with what money you're saving, that might be something to consider, is finding ways to put more in there, maybe at the expense of some of the other places you're investing, or some of the things in your budget, with that, so that empowers you to have a crack at some of these ideas. I don't know. That's what I got there for.
I think that's great. And, I think as piddly, I don't know, it kind of seems mind blowing, but I think that I can get that emergency fund up just by having my daughter pay her insurance and part of her gas. And I mean, again, those seem like such minor things. In most budgets, they are. In mine, it's not. To get that extra, $100 a month, in addition to scouring my insurance companies and seeing with a higher deductible where we can go with that, that may very well free up, a few $100s every, couple months, to the point that, yes, it's very incremental increase, or, very small increase over time, but that's what finances are. That's what savings is about, is making those small changes to be able to make a big difference in the long run.
That's exactly it. These small changes now will have a huge impact down the road. And it doesn't seem like a big deal right now, which is the best part. It's not like you have to cut out everything in order to get there. You just have to make small little tweaks. And as you make the small tweaks, you're like, ooh, I could tweak this too, and I could tweak that too. I mean, your expenses really are dialed in. I'm super curious about that reimbursement on the mileage thing.
I come back to the whole thing we discussed earlier of you're feeling behind on this because you just started, like in a sense, on this 6 months ago, or maybe, and it's probably been a power curve. Like you probably got started 2.5 years ago in a more formal sense, but you really kickstarted this thing in the last 6 months, and you're already at a 25% savings rate, because you're putting the money in there and putting some towards your emergency reserve every month. You're gonna move up from 25 to 30 to 27 to 30% to 33%, and it's going to be a month by month, 6 months to a year, bit by bit journey with that, as you get little raises and as you find ways to sell snow pants right before the winter, and as you one of your business ideas eventually generates some income that you're working on with that. So I think you're in really good shape. You're just not seeing, I think your frustration coming into the call today was that you're not seeing how that curve and how that journey will take you over the next couple of years. You're seeing where you are now, and if you model that out as a static position, the situation doesn't look good over 10 years with that. But just don't think about linear growth. Think about exponential growth over the next 3 to 5 years, and then work every day, every week to just compound that by 0.1% or 1%. Get a little better. This week, I'm going to call the insurance company and I'm going to do whatever it is next for the writing or the technical aspect of the blog. Boom, that's 1% better that week. Now you're at 26% savings rate. Then you do it again the next week, and so on and so forth. That is the journey that we're on here. You've done the hard reset. Now it's the grind that you're in for. You look at those, go back and look at some of those people who plotted those journeys out over the last couple of years, and you'll see that power curve that I'm talking about, where they do a jump, a lot of folks, and then it creeps up over time to that ridiculously high savings rate that a lot of these fire bloggers quote. So,
and I would probably be better off, which sounds like a silly thing, further along if I wasn't willing to live a life. So many people that I see within the fire community, and they're younger, so they have a little bit more of that runway to be dealing with. But, they, are like, okay, I'm gonna, do without, you talked about people living on rice and beans and, that kind of stuff. And I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna travel. I'm not, there are some things that aren't negotiables for me, that's, we went to, Lake of the Ozarks and stayed at an Airbnb for a week with my kids over spring break. We needed to get away. We needed to do something, but I make sure to have that money saved, and, it's a part of the budget, and it's not excessive amounts, but I think that it's really important that, I'm still living my life while I'm headed, to that future point. And I don't think it affects me in huge amounts, but I know that, I'm still going to get to my destination eventually. And I'm just hoping that, like you said, those the build up and everything else is going to get me there. But I'm definitely living my life while I'm headed that way. So many people would think that having a tight budget doesn't get you to where you want to go, but I still get to do those fun things and enjoy my life along the way.
Deb, I'll admit I'm unconvinced we actually were able to help you advance your financial position dramatically on this call with this, because I think you're doing such a good job as it stands. Let me ask you this: Did you get value out of this? Was this helpful? Were there some new frameworks around that? With that, I guess I don't think we found lots of savings. I don't think we found lots of income opportunities. I think we just gave you a couple frameworks and let you know, like, you're doing a good job with this. It's just you need more time.
You know what? I think that you guys have, for sure, because you know what? Even the things that I had thought of already, it's nice to have reassurance from somebody that knows what they're talking about, for entertainment purposes and such. It's nice to have, it's nice to have, yes, it's nice to know I'm headed in the right direction. As a single mom that doesn't have really anyone to bounce it off of, it's good to know that I'm headed in the right direction. And yeah, and the few things that were brought up, I think that just as with savings, it's going to be huge for me. It's, 100 extra bucks a month is 100 extra bucks a month. And, if I can free that kind of stuff up, that's going to help me get ahead that much quicker.
Awesome.
Well, great. Well, I'm glad it was helpul. I felt I was just like, man, we weren't able to move this. Yeah, I was just like, oh, we're gonna. I was like, no, she's doing it right. I think for the most part, it's just we need. I would be really interested to hear your story in a year or two from now, after you've kept this up and continued to compound what you're doing with this. And I wonder if you're feeling completely different at that point. So I'd be really interested to hear that and see what happens there. Maybe we can stay in touch and learn about that.
For sure. I'm excited. I'm one of those people that when I have an idea, I will be contacting my insurance company this afternoon. I mean, it's just one of those things that, I can't sleep on an idea when I have it. It needs to be executed. So, yeah, changes will be made, and I'm excited to check back in with you.
Awesome.
I'm super excited for your little thrift store flipping operation, because right now is when everybody's getting rid of stuff.
Yeah.
So snow pants, look for good jackets.
Yeah.
And snow boots. I mean, people are going to need those. Stock up all over the summer. Just stick them in a box underneath.
Oh, we've got basement.
In the basement or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stick them in a box in the basement and keep adding to them. You'll need so many boxes, then you can start listing them as soon as it gets cold outside. I love that idea. I might borrow that myself.
Yeah, and and it's not even just that. There's so many different things you can pursue. It's just a matter of, okay, what do I know anything about to know that I can make even a few extra dollars on?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. What do I know anything about? There's a lot of stuff I don't know anything about. I hate video games. I'm sorry to all of you gamers. I'm sorry to Scott, who loves them. And that's going to be his plan when he retires. I hate video games. I don't care about them. I don't even know all the different types. I am not going to be good at flipping video games. So I shouldn't even try that. But I'm great at snowboards. I used to do that. I live in Colorado. I go up to the mountains. I hit all the thrift stores up there because this hurts me. People will fly in, buy all new stuff, ski for a week, and leave it all here and fly home. And I, first of all, can't fathom that wastefulness, but I'm super thankful because it's like $50 for a snowboard. Or I'm sorry, $15 for a snowboard. A Burton snowboard in the mountains thrift stores, $15. I can sell that for $75 on eBay. The problem is I got to ship it on eBay, and that's, a bit. But that's something I know. So yes, I love that comment. Do something that you know about. Absolutely.
Shipping seems like a great job for like a 12 or 13-year-old.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's just
it. Gets
it.
really expensive.
My son knows video games, and that's what his focus will be when we're garage selling this summer, is that he's going to be, and I'm going to teach him how to look up what things are going for online. And but that's, Mindy, you may not know much about it, but you also didn't know much about flipping houses and everything else. And you know what, YouTube is your friend, as is just looking stuff up. And I was going to say, as with anything else, you learn. And, we came into this world knowing nothing, and we sure as heck know a lot more now. So, you make do, and you figure things out. And you know what? The return on video games, if you can buy a video game for $2 or $3, at a garage sale, oh my gosh, you can sell that thing for 20 or 30 on eBay. So you're because people are looking for, that remote, well, those remotes too, but for, games that are hard to find. So
I bought my brother one of those actually for Christmas last year, and I had to drop like $45-$50 for an older game that he wanted.
Exactly.
So I'm a buyer of that. Yeah.
Yep, we are too, unfortunately. Remote controls go bad all too quickly. In fact, I'm sitting on my son's gaming couch right now. So, yep.
Love it. Well,
very good.
Well,
Thank
Deb,
you
this has
guys
been
so much.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing this. I think this was a wonderful episode, and I just want to summarize. I think you're doing everything right. You just need to let time compound and keep attacking for the next, the way you are. Keep living your life, but you're going to benefit from the compound growth, not just in your investments, but from your activity set. Your cash flow is going to increase slowly but surely, not every month, but on average, pretty substantially, I think, here over the next couple of years. I'm excited to see how that plays out for you, because I think that the way you're feeling right now is just, you got the fire bug. You're trying to optimize with like all those other people, but you can't right now because of your current situation. Just think ahead over the next 3 years and how that's going to evolve. You're going to be in great shape, in my opinion, if you keep it up.
Yep, my opinion too. I think it's great. You're doing awesome, Deb. But thank you so much for sharing your story with us, because I know there are people who are in a similar situation. And like I said before, your journey, where you're at right now, you're doing amazing. You are head and shoulders above so many other people. Don't compare yourself to the people who happen to be ahead of you, had different circumstances, had different jobs, had different everything. Their journey isn't the same, so their result is not going to be the same. But you're doing fabulously. I'm super excited for your journey, and I do want to talk to you in 6 or 12 months again and see how much more you have saved up.
Very good. Yep. I'm excited about it. I was going to say, you know what? When you have an excitement when you wake up every day for not only what you do, but for what the potential of the future is, it's a good thing. It's just, again, I'm not where I want to be yet, and I have dreams of where I want to be, but I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep going.
Awesome.
That's awesome. You're going to kill it. Okay, that was Deb. Scott, what did you think of Deb's story? Oh, you know what? I don't care what you think of Deb's story. I have to yell at you first. Don't tell everybody, oh, I don't think we helped you. I think we did help her. I think it's really helpful to hear that you're doing a good job from somebody who talks to people all the time in this position. I think Deb is doing an excellent job. But like I said in the beginning, she's in that holding phase where you just have to keep going. And in the beginning, it is, what is it? The hockey stick growth. In the beginning, it goes like this, and then it starts to jump. But the beginning is really, really, really sloggy and boring, and that's okay. It still has to happen in order to get to that hockey stick growth. So shame on you for saying we didn't help. I think we helped a lot.
Okay, yeah, I think we ended up being helpful, and she seemed to feel that we were being helpful with the mindset type of thing. I was just disappointed that we didn't find any magic wand moments that would help her increase her savings rate. And the reason we couldn't is because she's doing a good job. When you are a single mom with 3 kids and you're making $5,500 a month as a nurse, I get it. Like, what else can we really do here at the end of the day to turbocharge the financial position? The laws of financial freedom are you have to increase your income, you have to reduce your expenses, you have to invest your accumulated assets to higher and better use, or you have to create assets. Those are the 4 levers. They don't have mercy on your situation if you're a single mom or if you're a 22-year-old single guy like I was, buying my first place, right? And there's clear advantages that I had at that moment in time with a very similar income to her that I was able to just save way more, right? And so like those are just like ways that the situation differs and why it's harder in different circumstances. But I think that the frustrating part for her, I think, was that she's just getting going on this journey to financial independence. She's doing it all right. She's saving at a good clip, and she just hasn't had the time and the to allow all of these changes that she's making to compound. And I think she's going to move farther and farther along that continuum over the next couple of years, which is why I kind of was asking her, how long have you been going at this with this intensity? And it's only been a couple of months with that, or a year or so.
Yeah, she, like I said in the episode, don't compare the beginning of your journey to the middle or end of somebody else's. And I didn't make that up. I got that from somebody else, and I wish I knew who so I could give them credit. But that's really, really brilliant. Don't compare yourself to anybody else who has not got the same journey, the same curveballs that life throws at everybody. There's different aspects to everybody's situation. So you can't expect to have a completely different experience and end up with the same result or at the same time, So I'm super excited for her. In a year or so, we're going to follow up with her or check back in, not follow up as though we'll never talk to her again. Check back in and see where she's at. I think she's going to be having a fully funded emergency fund and saving a lot more for retirement and doing all this wonderful travel and still being able to live her life and do all the things. And she's going to make it to retirement and just love the life that she had on the way there, which is so important.
Absolutely. Well, should we get out of here?
We should. From episode 194 of the Bigger Pockets Money podcast, he is Scott Trench and I am Mindy Jensen saying, parting is such sweet sorrow.